Hello everyone, today I'm going to be reviewing for you the Twin Suns Battlezone game mat for Star Wars Unlimited. Let's get this absolute bad boy to the table so you can see some pictures, and I'll give you some pros and some cons to let you know if you should be adding this one to your collection. Let's start with answering a very important question of why would you have a game mat in the first place, be it of this size for Twin Suns, but even a one-player one for if you're doing just the premier normal game modes. Well, for me, there's a couple of reasons. First of all, you know when you've put that mat down that it's going to be somewhat protecting your cards. Doesn't matter what's on the table underneath, and it's just, I find, a little bit nicer from that. You also have this nice artwork in front of you, and thirdly, I think it's because you can pick up cards just that little bit easier. They don't sort of sometimes stick to the table, there's no sort of sliding it to the edge if you can't get your fingernail under a card, because you can just squidge down a little bit of that mat and pick the card up. So I think there's multiple reasons why you might have a mat, but let's dive into this one specifically. Straight away you're going to realise that, well, it's in quite a big box, and to be honest, that's how you're probably going to want to be storing this one. Unlike the normal just one player game mats that you can get from Gamegenic for Star Wars Unlimited, where you can just sort of roll them up, put them in a bag, put them on a shelf, that sort of thing. I've even seen some people put things on like a coat hanger. That's not gonna be as easy with this one. This is basically 4 of those standard player mats stitched together. And actually this is one thing that going into playing with this mat that I was actually a little bit unaware of. I thought that it was going to be slightly smaller than, well, 4 mats put together, but as you can see from the picture, well, actually it very much is just 4 of those sort of standard ones, not the ultra wide one, put together. What this means is that actually it feels a little more condensed, and this is because it's Twin Suns. They've had to make room for the 2 leaders, they've had to make a little bit of room for like where you put the 3 different tokens, whereas with a lot of the single player mats, well, firstly, there's no battle zones pre-drawn out for you. You can have your resources basically just crammed right on at the bottom, and you could put the initiative token kind of wherever you like, that sort of thing. Well, there's predefined areas for all that sort of thing. So unlike a normal mat, if you were going to lean massively into space and you could just sort of shimmy your base and leader over a little bit to make room, you're not going to be able to do that with this one. So I think sometimes it feels a little more squished in and condensed, even if it's actually not. The game mat is definitely designed for the 4 players of Twin Suns. Yes, you could have 2 games going on left and right sort of thing, but it really is designed for that Twin Suns format where you have everyone's ground troops in the middle and everyone's space units around the outside. And I love the way they've used the artwork for this. I love the fact that all the ground troops are being deployed onto the planet, and the fact that all the space units are floating around in space outside. It can mean, oh, what's that card over there? Because you can't quite necessarily tell if they've just plopped something down. But that would be something that would happen if you were just playing, say, on the table anyway, and not on this game mat. Unfortunately, one negative that I have already come across is, well, playing with this thing anywhere else than my house. Because of this large box size, it's not fitting in a bag anytime soon, or it's going to be mostly poking out the top. It's not overly light either, so if I've got a backpack and this, there's also the fact, like, do I really want to, say, train to some friends holding this? Which means, unless I'm driving somewhere and I can just put this in the boot or the back seat, it's probably only going to be used for games at my house, which isn't necessarily a problem, but it does limit it a little bit. Whereas having just a 1-player mat, I can roll that up and put that in a bag. I don't necessarily want to squeeze this down into a bag, and it would then also still take up the majority of that bag. So just have that in mind, that limitation of where are you actually going to be using this. A couple of the things that this Twin Suns game mat is sort of using as a big selling point is 2 new features that haven't been on any of the sort of previous single player game mats. So there's a sort of more premium shiny finish. I think it does look pretty cool for the space side of things to have that bit of a shimmer. It just gives it a little bit something different. It's also not something that I'd be like, this is a must-have matte feature to have that new shinier finish. It looks nice. I certainly have no issue with it. I think it looks good, but it also I don't think would be that detrimental, if at all, if it didn't have that shiny finish. The other thing is that premium stitching around the edge. Now I do think that this is a sort of premium feel and a premium upgrade to the previous mats that didn't have it. For instance, in some of the pictures you've seen has been like the set 3 battle droids that doesn't have that premium stitching. It's one of those things that if you're playing just sporadically with this mat, you're probably not going to notice it, but I have seen on other mats from other games, and certainly there's some D&D ones that I'd used before, that after a long period of time, some of the edges can start to not fray or anything like that, but get just a little worn. Sometimes, you know, when you're rolling them up to put them in a bag, obviously it's the ends that are a bit more exposed to the bag, that sort of thing. And I do find that in other products, over a long period of time, the stitching does seem to help just keep the mat in a little bit better nick. So I'm really happy they added it to the Twin Suns mat. Of course, this is somewhat going to come down to, do you play Twin Suns or not? And, well, if you don't play that game mode of Star Wars Unlimited, I definitely recommend it. So having a dedicated mat for it, certainly not a necessary thing, but if you're going to be playing it a lot, this is a really premium product that, well, it just looks super cool on the table. It, to me, definitely is a superior option than having just 4 single-player mats, or even the sort of large 2-player mat and having 2 of those next to each other, for a few of the little things, such as all the ground units being in the middle, then space being on the outside. With the visualization of the planet and then space, just sort of works. It is a little bit of a pain, given the size of it, to store it, and as I mentioned, actually taking this out and about, well, it's definitely for car journeys only, that sort of thing. But if you have been playing Twin Suns, want to be playing Twin Suns, I think you won't go too far wrong with this stunning game mat. But hopefully this has helped you know if it's going to be something for you. Hopefully the pictures have shown it off in a really nice sort of way, because it is a really awesome mat to plonk down on a table and play Twin Suns with. But let me know what you think of it in the comments section below. Has this review helped? Again, shout yay or nay in the comments section below. Smash that like button, subscribe and all that sort of jazz. And until next time, have an unlimitedly good day.